everyone, welcome back to Pommyinoz. Hope we're all doing really well. If you are new around here, please drop a like, please drop a sub. It absolutely really helps the channel out. We're ticking along on subscribers in the off-season. We're really trying to keep the off-season content relevant, bit of fun. We're trying to merge everything, trying to keep it a bit entertaining because obviously for you football fans, this next 3 months is a little bit of a bore fest. So I'm in it with you. So please come on, join the crew. That's really good. Some people, though, really do join the crew. We've got Sean Costello, Sandra McDonald, Rory Forster, Saint, Andrew Scott, Greg Whitaker, Lana Owens, Azza James, Peter Haywood, Alexander Lana, Timmy P, Byron, Issa. Big shout out to you guys and girls who have joined the Pommy train. They are Pommynozers. If that does appeal to you, no obligation. It's just a bit of fun. Please check out the link in the description. And if you are the kind of person that likes these kind of things, Christmas coming up, we are making all sorts of sports prints. So please do check out my side hustle, pommysportsalmanac.com.au. We've got everything there. We even make things for you as well. So if you do have something, please let me know. Now, today what we're doing is, if anyone knows me, they know that football is a huge part of my life, but also the round ball game. Because of my accent, you know I am. So I thought, let's take a tactical look at what Carlton can do and what they suffer with and see if we can find some examples of in the round ball world. And the reason that we're doing this is because if you actually look around the world of sport, tactics are heavily influenced from each sport. And there is a hell of a lot of cases that soccer has leached off basketball, NFL, they leak off us, AFL. And it's probably lesser to an extent that the AFL do, even though the zonal system is an invention from your basketball and your netball scenarios, and that has gone globally. It is kind of stagnating in the tactical department. So I thought, let's find some real-life examples of things we don't do. So in a problem-solving exercise, we always look at something. So what is the problem? So the tactics and the deep dive. One thing that we can see from Carlton is in transition, particularly, players aren't in position to tackle. So what that means is if you're not in position in your structure, you're going to have to work hard. Now, a good tactic will have you in position to make the defensive play. That is the 101 of tactics. If you haven't got structure, we'll use some examples of where this has been seen recently. It helps you out. And if you look at AFL teams, Melbourne are a particularly good case. Watch them the year before to the year they won it. And look at how their midfield, particularly, is always in a position to make that tackle, make that stop. They're running from in front as opposed to behind, where Carlton quite often, as we'll see in some examples, are running from behind. Second is to protect the weak areas of the ground. Now, this is a real catch-22, particularly under David Teague's Carlton. They knew the corridor was there. Now, logic would say, in a tactical situation, you flood the corridor. It's probably the worst thing you can do. And if you look at like Ollie's side in soccer, you can see that his weaknesses are exposed because he tries to flood that area. A good system and a systematical approach to coaching and tactics is you kind of preordain it. So you kind of funnel the opposition to the areas they want to go. You want them to go as opposed to where they want to go. A great example of this is Pep's teams. They really do that. Geelong, Port Adelaide, they have a very good system that funnels opposition into the areas that they'd rather you be. And the second one is the ability to impact the scoreboard in dominant periods. There was a lot of times last year that Carlton had the rub of the green, were playing better football, and they really couldn't capitalise. And we'll go through that today. So let's start with players not in position, and let's try and find a methodology of how we can do it. So this is a great little example here of how to do it. So what we've got here is we've got Brighton versus the legends that were Liverpool. So now looking at Liverpool and Brighton, it's a really good case here because Brighton play a zone, and the definition of a zone is basically, in real layman's terms, breaking it down into boring facts. It's basically you guard space as opposed to the man-on-man. Now, What we found with them is that they play a systematical zone press. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So Liverpool genuinely like to play the ball out from the back, try and get it to Robertson and get it going. And what you found here is that the press came in. And what Liverpool are trying to do is get the ball here, and they try and get it to usually this area here, the right side. That is their attacking flank. So what you found here is that Mbwepu and Lallana, Kirakala, they tried to funnel Liverpool down the left side. And what they do here is it takes away the passing option. So you found that they kind of went left side of the ground in front of the man. Now, that forces him down to the flank. So it forced him down here to Mr. Robertson. And what he's going to be faced with here is a 1-on-2 situation. So suddenly, if he wants to go here to Keita, he's in trouble because Basuma, who's charged, Basuma and Wepo were charged with breaking up passages of play. So all of a sudden, he's in trouble. He's in trouble, Robertson. He's looking to force it. And what you'd found then is that the only viable passing option was going back through to here, to Konate. And before you know it, you are under a lot of pressure. Now, what this does is, although it's not a fail-safe plan, it's keeping the ball and making them work hard. They're having to take extra touches, and you found that Curtis Jones got here. He got isolated. Kurachella did a real good job as well of just staying on his man. And effectively what this did with Liverpool is it forced them into areas where they were outnumbered. So you found that eventually the ball would end up here. And before you knew it, there was no way for them to get the freedom, because usually what would happen is Salah would get here, he'd burst down and they'd break away. And it found that it was condensed. And that is from their hard-working forwards. That was from Trossard, Lallana, really working hard to close that space down. And it's a really, really interesting little facet, and it worked incredibly well. Now, if we take Carlton for an example, as an example, this is the Port Adelaide game. And where you found Carlton go wrong here is they condense the middle of the park, right? And you find that the half-forward line particularly sat off in transition. And that created space for this kick. And everyone will remember this kick. Now, you found that our wingers here kind of sat really tight. And this is how Port scored a hell of a lot of goals. And if you remember, it was a bad day. Because what it does is it creates outlets. Now, if we go back to Potter, what Potter was doing was he was anticipating where the outlets were. And this is really important to see. This is a common thing that has come in the football world in the UK and in Europe for a lot of years. And in AFL, it's there in spurts. And I'm not 100% sure they know they do it. But what you find is a good system, it's all about roles and understanding what my role is and understanding what it is. And when you've got roles, you've got to kind of leave your ego at the door. You look at really good presses. Liverpool probably have one of the best presses in the world. It's about a total buy-in of knowing that even though I'm Mo Salah, the best player on the planet, I'm responsible for my defensive sets. So what you found with Carlton is they naturally condensed this middle of the park. And it was such a focus that Teague really focused on this area here across half forward. And you found players were drawn into it and they forgot about these outlet kicks. And once this outlet kick came in, you saw players get drawn to the ball, become ball watching, and teams just picked us off. And it's as simple as a lot of these kicks were like that. Bang, you had the outnumber. Players were drew to where the ball was, not where the ball was going. They were drew to where it is. As opposed to Potter, when you weren't even anywhere near the play, you saw there where Trossard came in and attacked Konate, knowing that was where the outlet ball was. And eventually everyone shifted in motion. Carlton stayed static. Now, how do you fix that in an AFL terms? Well, it's quite simple, really, because what you've got to do is you've got to really play that high press and you've got to keep your width. You've got to keep your width, but then mirror what Geelong do, right? And what Geelong do is Geelong are exceptional at this. And this is something that also the Doggies are exceptional of. They create this kind of chain here and they naturally funnel you to the wings. And then they set up a trap here. So they defend their corridor half back and half forward, and then have the bodies in the midfield hovering and trying to push you out to the wing. So allowing the space, knowing then from here, when the ball gets here, what the boys do is simply they cut off that chain. So the wings that aren't involved, they start to go to the corridor, and suddenly it's funneled here, and they're aiming. Port do it as well. That when the ball is here, they have funneled their opposition and themselves to a long kick to nothing and having a spare to intercept it. And it's a really interesting kind of passage for them because that is how you do it. Now, can you do that in AFL? Of course you can. It's roles. And that is where I look at Carlton and think they don't have roles. They kind of play a little bit like United, where everyone's got kind of a role to an extent, but then there's that bit of an ego, a little bit of fear as well involved in it, and it opens up to space. And they start to respond to what the opposition are doing, as opposed to good teams defensively have a system. And Potter's system, Port Adelaide's system, Melbourne's defensive system, the Doggies system works with everyone. It's a generic game plan that then changes based on how opposition play. So knowing Liverpool, for example, they go down the right, TAA and Salah. It's obvious. If you were the coach of Liverpool, you want the ball in them at their feet. Then if you look at, say, Port Adelaide, they like to go down the wing, switch it back to the corridor because they've got pace on the outside. They've got Carl Amon, players of that ilk who can break lines. You look at Melbourne, they're good ball users. Ed Langdon, they're looking to go outside and then switch it back in to their good ball users. Doggies are a great example. They go down that right channel and they are looking to get the ball in McRae's hands through the corridor early to get to Bontempelli, who's roaming across half forward. And it's a really interesting thing. Now, what we'll also look at is we'll pick on the wonderful Liverpool because we talked about Liverpool. So we'll use another example of Liverpool they didn't do this to a great extent, but we'll use Liverpool as an example. So Liverpool building from the back. How does it work when it works well? So we've got the same slide. We'll see how it works well. So genuinely what they're doing is they're looking to get it to a centre-back. Now, a good run from a defensive point is that you guard the strong side of the guy receiving the ball and you cover that channel and you try and get him to play on your weaker side, right? So you know that it's going to be a curved run. Now, what you find when Liverpool are playing well is this happens. They look for the short ball and then they are running ahead. There is players running ahead of the ball so they can get out. And then you find these wonderful things happen with Liverpool when it's going well, that they create the outnumber, that overlap ball comes through. Before you know it, they are out. And it's all about playing one pass ahead. You look at Liverpool, you look at Man City, you've got the triangles, like the Man City triangles. It's amazing. It goes boof. It kind of goes like this, boof, boof, right? And then you move up a little bit, boof, boof, boof. You see, like that, the triangles, the triangle pass. Now, this is something that we are seeing in pretty much every sport now that involves passing a ball, looking for links, looking for chains. Now, how do you bring that in to an AFL situation? It's a great question. Now, let's have a look. Let's have a look at how Carlton genuinely attack. So Carlton from this position, let's just say that we've got the kick out. You find that Carlton go very direct and it's kick forward. It's kick forward. And what that does is because it's kind of slow, it allows defenses to get set. Like we see, they really cram that back. And you find that the ball carrier gets left behind. So like this example is really good. And this happened a lot in the Port game where the ball carrier, number 10 in this example, he's left behind of his support. He's left behind of his support. So really, from here, he's a sitting duck. He's kicking to a 5-on-2, 5-on-3 in some cases. Now, what the good teams do from this position here is they are looking for handballs and they are moving forward together in a unit, kind of like Liverpool. Now, this does two things, right? When you get dispossessed, when you're moving in that kind of like triangle thing, imagine it as a triangle. I handball to you, I run on. The guy next to me is running on. They kind of running lines. What that does really well in all ball sports really is there is options. But when you lose the ball, you are in position already in their attacking areas. You are in position to tackle. Effectively from that position, reason why you can't stop it. And Liverpool are a great example to watch if you want to see a bit more of it, of how they play that press. When they lose the ball, they're set. They're attacking numbers as well. And what you find is when the attacking numbers, and you can do this in AFL because you look, Richmond do it a hell of a lot in 2017. You've got one guy attacking the strong side of the ball carrier. Then you've got another guy attacking the space he kicks into, almost daring him to go to that position. And then you have another guy who is taking away the outlet ball, taking away the easy option and forcing that danger option into where you want. And it's a really interesting thing. And these are two things that I hope, with Carlton employing, people to be thinking outside the square. This is where the game will go. I guarantee by 2030, we'll look at AFL and it'll become a hell of a lot more of a tactical beast than it is now. And it is a tactical beast in itself now in my time of being here. It'll get better because at the moment what you're seeing is 18 clubs with the same tactical formation, really, with the smallest diversion, where you tune into EPL, you tune into Serie A, you tune into Bundesliga, you tune into La Liga even, and League One. You are seeing slight variance, and then you're seeing massive variance from all the 20. And it's a really good place, I would say, for the AFL to look, because you're getting all the facets in AFL condensed across 20 teams. You've got teams that are set up there to be counter offensive. You've got teams there that are very high on the front foot, your Liverpools. You've got your Brightons who are very counter pressing. And they're like, you know what, we're going to sit back a bit and then we're going to go. And Brighton gave a great example for AFL teams because what they did is they did that. It doesn't require a lot of energy to defend like that, but it requires a hell of a lot of energy for Liverpool to find space, to find gaps. And then when they started to tire around that 50-minute mark, Brighton started to play and said, you know what? We've got the game plan now. Let's stretch you. We'll show you what we can do. And it's very important that when you're talking about tactics, you have that defined role. That what is the problem and how can we set up in a way that our strengths are still our strengths, but our weaknesses now aren't defended, are hidden in a good tactical structure. And it's why you see the top teams in the EPL particularly win so much. And then suddenly there's a shock, like this weekend with Brighton. You can expose it eventually because teams like Carlton sometimes pay too much respect to the opposition. And that's why we say in that example where they flood the corridor, which can be the worst thing you can do with good ball-using teams. And you see it a lot in the EPL. When teams do that and they really focus on not losing, and that's the key there, not losing, you do exceptionally defensive things. So that is a real rudimentary little wake-up into football and AFL type tactics. Let me know what you think. What would you like to see? Anything that you see in other games that you would love to see coming in AFL? I've been Pommy. Pom out.